Part 27. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 261. Chapter 261. Mujukan comes out of seclusion. In 10 days, she finished learning the second-level talismans. In the next year, she finished drawing all the talisman papers she bought before stopping. The whole process went extremely smoothly, and she really realized the benefits of powerful spiritual consciousness. If it weren't for her blowing, if her spiritual power was enough to support the painting of the third and fourth levels, she could still draw it. Yuan cooked rice in the space and had a delicious meal before coming out of the space. Boom! As soon as she came out, she heard an explosion from Xiaoliu's room. Xiaolu, she rushed out. Huh? Ha 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 ha! Yuan looked at Xiaolu, whose face was blackened by the bombing, his hair was blown up like a chicken coop, and his clothes were in tatters. She held her stomach and laughed so hard that she couldn't stand upright. Huh! Xiaolu exhaled the smoke from his mouth and glanced at his fourth sister, feeling so unsympathetic. Fourth sister, have you laughed enough? Have you laughed enough? Look at it for me. I have drawn so many pictures, and every one of them explodes. Xiaoliu squatted in front of her with an afro and said. Okay, okay. Yuan wiped away the tears from laughter. Seeing Xiaolu squatting in front of her like this again, she couldn't help laughing for a while, then she pulled Xiaolu up and cast several cleaning spells on her. How lazy are you? You didn't even take care of it after it exploded like this. Yuan couldn't help but knock her on the head. It explodes every time, too lazy to care, Xiaolu wiped her face and said nonchalantly. She was really depressed. She had been drawing a talisman for so long and still couldn't finish it. You draw a picture and I'll take a look and see what's wrong. Yuan saw that she was finally interested in things other than eating, so she hurriedly said to her. Xiaolu nodded, she took out a piece of talisman paper and pressed it with a weight, held the pen in her right hand, then took a deep breath, transferred her spiritual power to the talisman pen and started writing. At first, there was no problem in drawing the talisman. When she was finishing the pen, she gently lifted the pen and a talisman was completed. It didn't explode. Fourth sister, how did I succeed in painting? Xiaoliu blinked her big eyes, with a look of disbelief on her face. Continue. Oh. 1 sheet, 2 sheets, 3 sheets, 100 sheets, every success. I didn't expect Xiaoliu to be a genius at drawing symbols. No, fourth sister, why did I draw one and explode it before? This talisman paper was because I saw you, so I was afraid of you, right? Xiaoliu hasn't woken up from the inconceivability that she can draw so many talismans at once. She can't do anything, but she has done so many today. Yuan handed her a spiritual fruit and waited for her to finish it before letting her sit down. How is it? It feels real now, right? Xiaolu nodded and saw that the talisman on the table was still there, confirming that it was genuine. Before you drew and exploded one by one, it was because you were not calm and had no confidence in yourself. During the process of drawing the talisman, if your breath is slightly unstable, you may fail to explode the talisman. This is normal. Yuan touched her head and said, if you don't believe it, try it later and draw the talisman with 2 completely different moods. Then you'll know, right? Xiaolu thought for a while and nodded thoughtfully. Go and get some sleep. It's very tiring to have your consciousness so focused all the time. Fourth sister is here to watch you. Yuan patted her distressedly. This snack finally stopped studying food every day. Sure enough, Xiaolu fell on the bed and fell asleep. This child, Yuan shook her head, picked her up and straightened her up, covered her with a quilt, then sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her. The one thing she didn't say just now was that she didn't feel safe. When she stood next to Xiaolu, she would feel at ease and concentrate on drawing the symbols. This child has always acted heartless, but it turns out that he is still very fragile inside. Yuan touched Xiaoliu's cheek lovingly. She had lived in such an environment since she was a child, not having enough to eat, not wearing warm clothes, and being beaten and scolded. It is normal for parents to be inactive and unable to receive their love and blessing. It is normal to feel fearful and insecure. Fortunately, she came through and made a huge change in their lives, but the shadows from childhood cannot be eliminated just by changing their lives. She lacks love, but it is something that her sister cannot give or replace. This matter needs to be figured out slowly. Fortunately, she discovered it early. At this time, there is still some time before foundation building, so she can slowly improve her. Xiaolu slept until the next day. Yuan, how is it? Ah, I feel so refreshed. Fourth sister, come on, show me the talisman I drew. Xiaolu stretched, her face changed, and she shouted hurriedly. Yuan brought her the talisman she drew yesterday and gave it to her. Hey, fourth sister, this is not a dream, I can also draw talismans. Xiaolu put down the talisman and hugged Yuan. Yes, our Xiaolu is actually very experienced. Get up quickly, have breakfast, and then keep up the good work. Okay, she responded quickly and easily this time, without pushing and pushing like before. Yuan smiled knowingly. After the sisters had eaten, they began their daily practice. After the show, Yuan went to Fangxi and Xiaoliu continued to draw the talisman. Hey, are you out of seclusion? As soon as she came out, Mujukan came towards her. Dressed in white, with a smile on his unparalleled handsome face, bathed in the early morning light, he looked like an immortal descending from heaven, which made Yuan a little stunned. Mujukan walked into her, held her in his arms and responded softly. What's wrong with you? This guy is crazy and romantic early in the morning. He hasn't seen him for more than 10 days. It's okay, I'm very fine, thank you Wan'er, he said softly, rubbing her hair. Oh, that's fine if it's okay, let's go to Fangxi, she said while breaking away from him. Mujukan touched his empty arms and hurriedly followed. Wan'er also built a foundation, he touched his chin and stared at her and thought to himself. Hey, isn't it time to get married? Mujukan squinted his eyes and giggled twice. By the way, you have established a foundation now, what are your plans? Yuan looked back at the stupid Mujukan, why is this guy giggling? His talent in cultivation cannot be ruined by Yang Chengfeng and his daughter. She didn't believe that the father and daughter could let him go so easily. Her master's warning was only a warning that they should not harm him and endanger his life. They still suppressed him in cultivation, making it difficult for him to advance in cultivation. Using a few tricks can put Mujukan into trouble. Mujukan knew that she was worried. He took a step forward and held her hand and said, Don't worry, I'm at Wanjian Peak now. I heard that you were accepted as a disciple by the madman. Well, that day at Formation Peak, you were in retreat. That scene was really refreshing. My master was very domineering and pointed it out in front of Yin Hao, Yang Chengfeng, and his daughter. Mujukan watched her mouth open and close as she talked endlessly, and the corners of his lips rose unconsciously. He did not feel that it was a shameful thing to be protected by a woman, but it made him feel warm in his heart. His Wan'er cares about him very much and cares about him. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 262. Chapter 262 on Getting Married. Mujukan kept listening to her with a smile until he arrived at Fangxi. The two of them arrived at the store. They entered through the back door again, and it was Mu Yunshan who opened the door. Wan'er, my second brother is here too, come in quickly. Mu Yunshan quickly opened the door and let the two of them in. Brother, this is for you. After Yuan entered the house, she took out a storage bag and gave it to him. There are not only elixirs inside, but also talismans drawn by Xiaolu and talismans drawn by her, including second-level talismans. Okay, Sit down for a while. You two are here. Don't leave in a hurry today. We will go back together later. Mom hasn't seen you for so long and she has been talking about it every day. Take out some things from the bag and put them away. After hearing this, the two looked at each other and nodded. Brother, let's go back first, and you guys can close the shop early, Muyukin said. Muyunchin, that's okay. So the two of them came to the current Muse house. The current Musei is completely different from before. The flowers and plants in the courtyard have long since disappeared, replaced by elixirs. Not to mention, it is growing very well. Yuan couldn't help but twitching at the corner of his mouth, admiring the old man's eccentric behavior. This must be his masterpiece. Mujukin didn't think there was anything wrong. Smelling the aroma of these elixirs, he felt refreshed both physically and mentally. Mother, second aunt, Mujukin called out. Hey, Chenner is back. Mrsu heard the shout, and she and Mrs Muer came out of the backyard. They wiped their hands on their aprons as they walked towards them with smiles. Yuan saw them not seeing each other in February. Although they were dressed as peasant women, they were obviously in better spirits and looked younger than before. Aunt, second aunt, Yuan greeted them both. Haha, Wanner is back too. Let's take a walk around the courtyard with Chenner. We'll have lunch soon, Mrsu said, holding her hand in a good mood. Yes, look at the elixirs grown in our courtyard. Your grandfather said that he would also learn to make alchemy in the future, Mrsuer also said. Let's go for a walk, Mujukin also said. In fact, they didn't need to go around. Everything about the house was in their consciousness. He just wanted to be alone with her. Yuan nodded towards the three of them, and then Mrsu and Mrsmu returned to the backyard kitchen to help Gao cook. Mujukin took her and really looked around in the yard. Grandpa Mu is really an interesting person, Yuan sighed. She saw a lot of second-level elixir seedlings in the yard, and he was the only one who made use of his yard. The aura in the yard is not thin, so it is naturally suitable for the growth of elixirs. Hee, that's right, Grandpa has always been a person with ideas, Mujukin said arrogantly. In Dian, the Mu family was actually the most suitable to be the emperor, but for some unknown reason he was given over to the Feng family. But these are no longer important. Now their family can live freely here. It would be even more perfect if there were no such disturbing things. Mujukin, just now you said you went to Wanjian Peak. Yeah, you just remembered to ask now, Mujukin pinched the tip of her nose, thinking she had forgotten. Yuan, no way, weren't we talking about Yang Changfeng and the others just now? He sent me there himself. Oh, he is so kind, Yuan was surprised. Mujukin frowned and said, well, when I came out of seclusion at the Foundation establishment, I went to look for him. He asked me which peak I wanted to go to. I was confused at the time. I thought about it, except for formations and swords. So I said I wanted to go to Wanjian Peak, but he sent me directly to see the Peak Master of Wanjian Peak without saying a word, and I was accepted by Peak Master Ren as his direct disciple. He had no idea what kind of medicine Yang Changfeng was selling in his gourd. When he arrived at Wanjianfeng, everything seemed normal. Yuan didn't say anything. She thought that the drug madman had never been seen since he threw her to Changsheng Peak, and he had completely left her alone. Yang Changfeng is so straightforward. Is it his handwriting? This old man acts arrogantly, and it is very likely that he will go and cause trouble. No matter what, at least not under his eyes, no matter what. By the way, you left, where is the stone? Mujukin, she too worshipped another Jindan master as his teacher. There are several Jindan masters on the formation peak, not just Yang Changfeng. That's fine, as long as it doesn't involve stones. She felt relieved that she had not lived under that birdman. After all, it was all brought about by her. Not to mention death, even if she was injured, her heart would hurt. Let's go, Grandpa and the others are back. Oh, Yuan looked at the sky, it was already noon so soon. The two returned to the living room, and sure enough, Mr. Mu, his father, his son, and Mu Yunchen were already chatting and laughing. Seeing them coming in, Mr. Mu quickly asked them to sit down too. Hey, Wan'er, your second-level talismans were sold out as soon as they were put on sale today, Mr. Mu said with a smile. Of course, it doesn't matter how different her talismans are from the ones here, Yuan thought to herself, but her expression was not obvious. She just smiled and said, then I will draw more these days. Oh, by the way, Wan'er, you have so many elixirs and talismans in your storage bag. Do you want to go down the mountain? Mr. Mu asked again. Yuan nodded, well, I have already built the foundation. I want to go down the mountain to practice. We came here, but we didn't go out to take a good look. Well, no, Wan'er, you want to go out to practice, then why didn't you tell me? Mujukan was a little anxious after hearing this. Wan'er promised him that they would get married after they established the foundation. Who would go out to practice? Know how long it will take to get back. And Wan'er is so good, how can she not provoke a group of people who have thoughts about her when she goes out? There are many male monks who are better than him in the world of immortality. Who knows if Wan'er will abandon him like a pair of worn shoes after seeing him too much? Yuan raised her eyebrows and looked at Mujukan in confusion. What was he anxious about? Wouldn't she just go out and practice for a while? Wouldn't he go and practice? Doesn't he want to go out and experience with her? She tilted her head and asked him, don't you want to practice? Me, I want it. Mujukan finally realized that he could go out with her to practice. Han, what is he thinking about? He wiped the thin hair on his forehead. Damn, he was so scared that he was sweating. He knew Wan'er was very important to him, but he didn't expect it to be so important that he was afraid of the possibility of losing her. Mr. Mu could clearly see the cleverness between the two of them, and he felt a little sorry for his grandson. He cares so much that he doesn't dare to say anything. It seems that he is the only one who can speak out the matter as a grandfather. It's hard for his grandson to tell it himself. Ahem, Wainer, you two have built a good relationship. Are you ready to get married after training? Grandpa can prepare it for you. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 263. Chapter 263. Her master. Married, Yuan didn't react for a moment. She looked at Mujukan. Mujukan nodded towards her. But she has no preparation or plan to get married now, she lowered her head and thought. She remembered that she said that when they both laid the foundation, they would be married. However, when she came here, so many things happened, she never thought about it at all. What's more, she is only 18 years old now, so it's too early to get married. Mr. Mu saw her lowering her head and said nothing, thinking that she had some thoughts. He sighed and wondered what he could do if she really had the idea of not wanting his grandson. Is it not possible to force her? He looked at Mujukan. When Mujukan saw her lowering her head, his heart sank to the bottom and became colder. At this time, Yuan was struggling in her heart. If she didn't agree to get married, but she clearly promised him, and now she said she had no plans to get married, what would they think of her? Is she a scumbag? She seems to be teasing others. If Mujukan thought she was playing tricks on him and fell in love with another woman, it would be her turn to cry. How about getting married after returning from experience? Isn't that what Mr. Mu asked her just now? She raised her head and looked at the people in the room. They were all in a bad mood. Um, did she say anything? Well, Grandpa Mew, look, I'm only 18 years old this year. How about I get married after 2 years of training with Mewjukin? Do you think that's okay? That's right, of course, ha 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 ha, girl one, my master has done this for you. Mr. Mew breathed a sigh of relief, and he immediately agreed happily. Uncle Mew, second Master Mew and Mew Yunshin also became happy, and they looked at Mewjukin at the same time. Yuan admired Jukin again. Mewjukin, do you think this is feasible? When Mewjukin heard her reply to Mr. Mew, his mood had changed. How could he not be willing to do so? It turned out that Wanner thought she was too young and scared him half to death. His gloomy face was already as bright as a spring breeze. He nodded with a smile and said, of course. He wanted to say later that as long as he agreed to marry him, he would wait as long as he wanted. It's just that he won't say that the most important thing is to get the beauty back as soon as possible. Everyone had a happy meal at noon. Their marriage was finalized, and everyone's mood was greatly improved. MRSU took the initiative to make arrangements so that they could get married immediately after they came back. On the way back, Mewjukin kept holding her hand and never let go. He just wanted to live a stable life with his beloved every day, and face everything together. After all the fighting and killing, these days of stability are so precious. But they still cannot meet the requirements for a stable life. They just said that they have basically established a foothold in Haoyu sect, but their cultivation is not enough for them to settle down. So we still need to work hard. Wanner, when are you going to go down the mountain? Yuan, it will take a few days. My eldest brother and the others have not come back. When they come back, I will tell him about our affairs and give him the foundation establishment pill. Well, that's good, let's go down the mountain together then. After the two separated, Yuan returned to Zhejiang Peak. Xiaoliu was drawing the talisman. She went to check it out and found that the effect was pretty good. After giving instructions to Xiaoliu, she prepared a meal for her before entering the space. She remembered something, which was the ring she picked up under the cliff. She returned to the cabin, took out the ring, and entered with her spiritual consciousness. There were only 4 jade slips inside. Her consciousness moved and the 4 jade slips were placed in front of her. Yuan was curious. There were only 4 jade slips in such a precious storage ring. She wanted to see what extraordinary things were in the jade slips. She picked one up, and her spiritual consciousness entered. The 6 large characters of the complete collection of ancient formations were printed into her spiritual consciousness. Ancient formation, Yuan opened the page and read on. These formations are actually the same as those in the Encyclopedia of Formations, Analysis of Formations, and Outline of Formations that Xiaoxi gave her. It's just that the formations in this jade slip are complete, all the way up to the 9th level formations. She was overjoyed. This suited Mewjukin very well. She immediately took out the blank jade slips and copied a few of the ancient formations. If any of her brothers liked it in the future, she would give them to them. After copying it, she put down the jade slip and picked up the second piece. Inside was a skill for body training called transformation. This is suitable for us to use. She copied it quickly. After practicing this technique, it is most suitable for running or escaping. Each member of their family must have a share, and the more ways to save their lives, the better. After she copied it, she picked up the third one, which was also a skill called 9 Heavens of Thunder. She read it again and found that this was a technique practiced by Lei Lingan, and none of them could master it. She put it down and picked up the last one. After his spiritual consciousness entered, suddenly, a figure flashed out. Don't be afraid. Su Xiying knew that she was afraid, and he said immediately. You should be a disciple of Haoyu sect, right? Yuan nodded eccentrically. Since you got this jade slip, it should be the storage ring found in my corpse. Can you give this jade slip to Gu Chang'an? Gu Chang'an. He is the one known as Yao Madman. He is from Yao Feng and is my apprentice, the figure added when he saw that she didn't recognize him. Apprentice, apprentice. Are you the master? No, disciple Yuan has met the master, Yao Kui is my master, Yuan finished quickly. On the day of her apprenticeship, she knew that Yao Kuang's master and junior brother might die at the hands of Yin Hao, and that Yin Hao was this figure's apprentice. She had to show that she was Yao Kui's apprentice, otherwise the figure would scold her or scold her. No matter what, avoid being wronged. Sure enough, after hearing this, the figure immediately burst into laughter. God's will, I died unjustly, will my injustice finally be overturned? Master, the disciple will go find the master now. Yuan immediately withdrew from the jade slip. That day, what did she discover? That corpse turned out to be her ancestor. She immediately came out of the space, told Xiao Lu, and ran towards Changsheng Peak. She'd better not get involved in this kind of thing. 2 hours later, Yuan covered her chest, took a few deep breaths, and went straight to the wooden building of the drug madman. There's no one here, Yuan frowned. She ran towards the medicine garden at the back again. Okay, the mistress is still there. Uncle Sanzi, Yuan shouted. When the third son heard the shouting, he flew out and asked, "What's the matter with my uncle?" Yuan didn't care how strange the titles between the two of them were. She hurriedly said, "Uncle Sanzi, can you contact the master? Ask him to come back quickly. I have something very important to report to him." The mistress glanced at her and saw that he took out a piece of jade and pointed it at the jade. For a moment, the white light on the jade flashed, and then returned to its original state. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Yuan is injured. Master will be back soon. After he finished speaking, he entered the medicine garden again. Yuan pouted, this mistress is also a person with a weird temper. He is even more of a figure. He is a real person in the sect at the Golden Core stage, and he is still working as a medicine boy at Changsheng Peak. Such people either really have no desires or have some ulterior motives. Yuan still believes in the latter. She took a look at the medicine garden, then turned back to wait in front of the medicine madman's wooden building. Yao Maniac came back quite quickly, half a stick of incense came back. Girl, why are you so anxious to find a teacher? You have established a foundation so quickly, and your cultivation has been consolidated well. You are truly worthy of being my disciple. I haven't even taught you 2 moves yet, but you have already established a foundation by yourself. The medicine maniac kept talking about it, and after opening the formation of the wooden building, the master and the disciple entered the wooden building. As soon as he sat down, the madman said, "Girl, what's the matter? Come on, I'm still with your uncle. I'm very busy anyway." Yuan glanced at him and hoped that the old man, would still be so careless after seeing this. She placed the storage ring and 4 jade slips on the table and said, "Master, take a look at these things." Yao Maniac looked at her suspiciously. "Girl, is this why you asked me to come back in such a hurry?" "Well, I promised to give the master a surprise. Hope you can catch it." The madman picked up a jade slip and looked at it. He frowned, and then he picked up a second jade slip and looked at it. After reading it, Yao Kui suddenly became full of energy and jumped up, almost blowing down the wooden building. Yuan quickly retreated to a corner to avoid being accidentally injured. The drug madman opened his mouth wide and exhaled. He couldn't say a word, and his face was livid from holding back. Suddenly, he struck at the door of the wooden house with his palm, and the door turned into a pile of sawdust with 2 bangs. The drug madman flew out in the blink of an eye. "My mother, the master is so scary." Yuan patted her chest and walked out of the wooden building. She looked back at the wooden building without a door and the formation board that had been blasted to pieces by the drug madman's palm. Should she leave or wait? Yuan simply returned to her cave to see when the madman would come back so that she could tell him that she was going out to practice. By the way, I was looking at Madman Yao's wooden building, just in case someone took the opportunity to go in and move his valuable things. The thing she was most worried about was the mistress. Suddenly, as if she thought of something, she immediately ran to the Yaokuai mansion, threw out a futon, and started meditating on the spot. At midnight, the entire Changsheng Peak was shrouded in darkness. The night wind blew the trees on the mountain, making the leaves rustle. Yuan's consciousness swept over, and everything was dark, with only a few small stars occasionally shining in the sky. At this moment, she felt restless and couldn't calm down. Did something happen? Are you a drug addict? He took the jade slip and ran away in the afternoon. I wonder who he was looking for? Suddenly, in Suqing's consciousness, the mistress came out of the medicine garden and went straight to the door of the wooden building. Junior uncle, why are you here? He walked to the door and suddenly saw her sitting at the door, and took a few steps back. Yuan frowned. He didn't even use his consciousness to see if anyone was there. Or are you sure there is no one here? She didn't even raise her eyes and said coldly, Uncle Sansa doesn't sleep at night, why are you here, master? I just came to take a look. The mistress was a little awkward when she spoke. Is this a guilty conscience? Are you really here to steal things while the master is away? There's nothing going on here. Uncle Sansa, please go back. I'll wait for the master to come back. He said he'll be back in a while, Yuan said calmly. After she finished speaking, he paid attention to her. Oh, is it so? Suddenly, Xiaosan's expression changed and he slapped Yuan with a fierce palm. Yuan rolled on the spot. Boom, a big hole was made by the mistress where she was sitting. Bitch, you were so quick to hide. The mistress' twisted face was hideous and ugly. He cursed Yuan bitterly, and then struck a few times with his palms. Boom, 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 the fierce palm wind struck her head and face. Yuan could dodge 1 or 2 palms, but not 3 or 4. Puff puff. Yuan finally fell to the ground and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. The mistress walked up to her, squatted down, and looked at her. Tisk, 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 I can really take the beating, so I won't kill you. Yuan held back the pain. Why? Ha 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 ha, why? Why do you think it is? The mistress looked up to the sky and laughed a few times, then stared at her fiercely. Yuan, how did I know? I have only been a master for a month. If you treat me like this, aren't you afraid that my master will kill you? She saw that the mistress clearly had a deep hatred towards him, but she clearly had no grudge against him. She was also drunk and met a madman inexplicably. Kill me? He won't know. It's normal for such a big Haoyu sect to kill all its disciples, not to mention that you have provoked Yang Chengfeng. As soon as he mentioned the drug madman, the mistress's tone changed and became very gentle. Do you hate me for taking away your apprenticeship, or do you think I'm in the way? In fact, you want to steal the master's things while his wooden building is broken down. You were quite smart, but it was a pity that you didn't live long and got the wrong master. After saying that, he stood up, threw his hand, and a formation disc was activated. In an instant, the scene in front of her changed. Yuan lay still and did not move, but her consciousness had already enveloped the entire formation. This was only a second-level formation. Haha, such a formation also wants to trap her. It's a joke. The reason why she didn't use Soul Stab is because she wanted to know what the mistress was going to do. What did he want to do by trapping her here? At this time, the mistress had already jumped into the wooden building. Yuan's consciousness traveled through the formation and followed him into it. The mistress ran straight to the second floor and stopped outside a study room. He immediately opened the door and entered. The study room is full of bookshelves, filled with books and jade slips. The mistress reads them one by one, including every jade slip. Finally, he frowned and searched around the house, but didn't seem to find what he was looking for. He turned around and searched the next bedroom again, but didn't find what he was looking for. She really came to steal the master's things, Yuan thought to herself. Just how can we get the master to catch him? Unfortunately, there are no mobile phones here, so there is no way to record it. There is that kind of talisman, but it's a pity that she doesn't have it. Call someone. There are only two people in Changsheng Peak, namely her and Xiao Sanzi. Even if someone is called, there is no evidence to prove him. Who would believe her, a young female cultivator who has just become a disciple, and doubt the young mistress who works hard at Changsheng Peak? At that time, it would be normal to hit her with a rake. It seems that the only way is to knock him out in the medicine madman's study. When the drug madman comes back, won't everything be clear? Snort. Yuan's consciousness locked on the mistress who was still rummaging through boxes and cabinets in the bedroom. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. The third son is executed. 3 soul thorns shot into Xiao Sanzi's sea of consciousness. Ah! The young man who was rummaging around screamed and fell to the ground and fainted. Yuan did not detonate the soul thorn. This would only make him comatose, but he would not die after detonating it. When the drug madman comes back, she can withdraw from the soul stab, and the mistress can still wake up. Although her consciousness is injured, it will not affect the interrogation. She then put a healing pill in her mouth and began to meditate to heal her injuries. Maybe God was helping her, or maybe Yao Kui knew something had happened on Changsheng Peak. While she was meditating to heal her injuries, Yao Kui came back. "Girl, what's wrong with you? I've only been here for half a day and it's like this. Tell me, who did this?" With a wave of his hand, Mad Yao broke the formation that trapped Yuan. He asked her angrily. Upstairs, Yuan opened her eyes and pointed at the wooden building, then closed her eyes and continued to heal her wounds. Sure enough, Madman Yao's consciousness swept away, and in the blink of an eye he flew up to the second floor, and in a moment he carried the mistress down and threw him to the ground. He saw that Yuan was still recovering from her injuries. This time he did not disturb her, but stood there looking at the mistress on the ground with a dark look on his face. Yuan took the opportunity to take back the 3 soul thorns in Xiaosan's head. Fortunately, her spiritual consciousness is powerful and she can send and receive soul thorns at will. If Yu Heiran and the others were there, they would never be able to do it. After a while, she finished healing her wounds, walked up to the medicine maniac, lowered her head and said, "Master." The drug madman glanced at her. "Well, are the injuries healed?" Yuan nodded. "It's okay." The drug madman looked at the two of them, sighed, threw out 2 futons, and sat down first. Yuan sat down obediently and glanced at him. "Hey, it was the master who harmed you. When the mistress wakes up, I can ask him something for the master and leave him to you." There is something that Madman Yao doesn't understand. He had accepted a disciple before, but he died inexplicably just after becoming a disciple. He always thought it was an accident. If he hadn't been in a restless mood today and suddenly thought of coming back, he would have been afraid of missing the truth. He usually acts arrogantly and seems to be a brainless person, but in fact he is the most sinister and cunning person. It's just that the mistress works as a medicine boy at Changsheng Peak. He has always been honest and honest. In his eyes, he is the kind of person who has no sense of existence. I didn't expect that this man's palace was so deep and he was hiding so deeply. He was deceived. Yuan looked at the drug madman who had aged a lot overnight. She didn't know how to comfort him. In fact, she was trying to explain how the mistress fainted in his bedroom. It can't be said that he, a golden elixir level monk, fainted in his bedroom. He was not a 3-year-old child. Master, don't you ask my disciple how the mistress fainted, she still asked with a confused look on her face. If the master really wanted her spiritual consciousness technique, she would give it to him. Are you stupid? Do you think I didn't see that he was injured in the sea of consciousness? Your consciousness has turned into a spirit and you think I don't know? Yao madman rolled his eyes at her. Why is this disciple so honest? How can he hide it? As for how to hide it, she had better ask directly. No wonder she was abducted to be someone else's fiancée at such a young age. But this also means that this disciple trusts him. It turns out that the master knows everything. She is still too young, but fortunately the madman is her master. Others have long forced her to hand over her skills. From now on, after cleaning up the people, burn them directly and flee the scene, don't let others find out, the medicine maniac said again angrily. Oh, I understand, Master, Yuan responded obediently. Master, I want to go out and practice for a few years. Experience, just you, where is your fiancé? Let's go out together. That's pretty much it? If you go out alone, I'm afraid my joy will be in vain again. The drug madman let out a few faint sighs. Master, what are you talking about? Humph, isn't that right? With your straightforward mind, you can go out and meet people with a little bit of experience and still not be tortured into scum by them. Yuan, Master, can we have a pleasant chat? Is she that stupid? Why didn't she feel it? Well, at this moment, the mistress lying on the ground woke up, covering her head. Master, little uncle, what's wrong with me? He asked with a confused face. Snored. Pack. Yao madman had a cold face. If he hadn't caught him in person, he would have been deceived by his honest appearance. It's true that people can't be judged by their appearance, just like Yin Hao, he acts like a dog in front of his senior brother and acts like a dog behind his back. You don't know what you did, do you want me to search for your soul? As soon as Xiaoxinzi heard about soul searching, his face suddenly changed color. Tell me, who sent you to find my recipe for elixirs? The medicine madman was really in no mood to waste words with him. The mistress gritted her teeth to keep from making any noise. Don't think about self-destruction. It's best to be obedient in front of me. You pretend to be like a fool and deceive me. It's okay if you don't tell me. I'll search for your soul, but I won't guarantee your soul after searching can be reincarnated. The mistress suddenly became even more wilted. He gritted his teeth and spit out 2 words, Yin Hao. After saying that, he fell to the ground like a deflated rubber ball. Humph, trash, it's really him. The drug madman kicked him. Girl, I leave it to you, you can do whatever you want. Yuan rolled her eyes at him. He wouldn't think that she had never killed someone before. Master will definitely blind your eyes. 3 soul thorns shot into the sea of consciousness of Xiaoxinzi, who still opened his mouth wide and wanted to beg for mercy. Explode. At this time, Xiao Sanzi's 5th tube immediately began to bleed, his head tilted, and he died completely. Yuan tore off his storage bag and threw a fireball to burn the mistress to pieces. After finishing the matter, she handed the mistress's storage bag to Madman Yao. Madman Yao waved his hand and said, I still need something from him. This is your trophy. You keep it. He thought this girl had never killed anyone before, but looking at her flowing movements, he thought of 2 words, veteran. As expected, the saying goes again, people should not be judged by their appearance. You can go back, you don't have to worry about it anymore, the drug madman waved to her again. Oh. Yuan collected the storage bag and returned to her cave. In the cave, she activated the formation, then took out the mistress's storage bag and poured out all the contents. The storage bag of a golden elixir monk. This was the first time she got it with her own hands. She was looking forward to seeing what was in it. I wonder, how many elixirs have been stolen? Yuan looked at the jade boxes on the ground. The jade boxes were full of precious elixirs, some were mature, and some were not yet mature. She looked at it for a while before starting to clean it up. She was confused and startled when she saw it. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 266. Chapter 266, Return to the Valley. There are 200,000 spiritual stones alone, and more than 100 medium-grade spiritual stones. Including the spiritual weapons, magic weapons, elixirs, ores, array discs, and talismans, the value is over 2 million spiritual stones. This is still an invisible rich man. She looked at the wooden building of the drug madman. Master, you have been tricked so badly. Should she also go to the master's medicine garden? Forget it, think about it, drug madman is really not a kind person to meet people in his life, everyone wants to trick him. The next day, Yuan got up very early and came out of the cave after her regular practice. When she arrived in front of Youkui's wooden building, the building was already empty. She shook her head and returned to the cave, preparing the things she needed to go down the mountain to experience. 10 days later, Mujukan and Yuan stood in front of the Haoyusek's mountain gate. They looked back at the tall mountain gate, jumped on the flying boat, and disappeared into the distance. Over the valley, Mujukan used his hand to make a magic decision, and the flying boat descended into the valley. The valley has changed a lot. There are many monks in the valley. Some are taking care of the spiritual valley, some are taking care of elixirs, and some are practicing spells. They saw a flying boat suddenly descending, leaping over and surrounding them both. Who are you, who dare to break into our valley privately? They stared at the two of them fiercely, as if they wanted to poke holes in their bodies. Mujukan said displeasedly, when did our valley become yours? Get out of here. Everyone, come on, kill these two blind people. A horse-faced monk with an 11th level of chi training raised a flying sword and shouted angrily. Yuan's eyes were cold. She looked at the horse-faced monk, her consciousness moved, and a soul thorn flew into his sea of consciousness. She silently said explode in her heart. I saw that the horse-faced monk was fierce in one breath, but in the next breath he covered his head with his hands and screamed, and then he bled to death from his 7 orifices. Ah, Brother Ma, what's going on? The young chi practitioner next to the horse-faced monk saw that he suddenly fell to the ground and died. He was so frightened that he screamed and jumped away. The monks surrounding Yuan and the others immediately gathered around and saw the horse's face, which was bleeding to death for no apparent reason. They turned around and looked at the two of them in horror. Snort. Yuan felt scornful in her heart. Now, who is not smart? A group of shameless people occupied their valley and wanted to kill them. They really overestimated their capabilities. Look what they are going to do now. If you don't get out, I'll just kill them all. Mujukan turned around and smiled gently at her. He held her hand tightly. He could feel the murderous aura that flashed across her body just now. Just leave it to him to do the work. Yes, it's you. The chi practitioner who jumped away first pointed at them and said with disbelief on his face. But they had to believe that it was the two of them who killed the horse-faced monk. It was just some kind of attack method that killed the person without anyone noticing. It is not poison. If it were poison, the blood flowing out of the 7 orifices should be black, and they would not be able to escape. Yuan did not deny it. She nodded, as we said, this valley belongs to us. It's just that we went to Haoyu section. It's better for you to give you a chance to leave. Instead, You want to kill us because of the large number of people. She kindly explained to them, and then she released the pressure of the foundation building monks. Ah, how you sect, it's senior foundation establishment, he immediately reacted and hurriedly lowered his voice. What? Senior Zuji? Ah! Senior, have mercy on me, Senior, have mercy on us, let's get out of here. The 17 or 8 young Chi practitioners immediately threw away the magic weapons in their hands, kowtowed to them and shouted for mercy. I told you to get out a long time ago. If you have to act like I'm awesome and I'm in trouble, it's annoying to look at. Leave all the storage bags and get out. Yuan said coldly that she really wanted to kill all these people, but after thinking about it, she might as well forget it. The face of the horse that really danced for joy had turned cold, and she didn't bother to worry about these dozen or so small exercises. Okay, thank you for not killing me, Senior. Someone immediately pulled off the storage bag and wiped the mark of consciousness on it, then put the storage bag on the ground and ran away. Where there is one there are two. After a while, only the two of them and a pile of storage bags on the ground were left in the valley. It's not that she values the things belonging to the Chi practitioners, but the fact is that all the original things in each attic have been taken away by them. She won't kill them, but she won't let them take away the things in the valley. Let's go down and take a look. Mujukan collected the flying boat and gave her all the storage bags. Yuan walked towards her attic and took a look inside. Except for the table, chairs, bench, and bed, everything else that was originally placed there was gone. She doesn't feel bad about these things, and they aren't worth much. She just feels uncomfortable when others touch her and use her things. She used a few dusting techniques to clean the attic before coming out. Mujukan also went back and took a look. The room was also completely changed beyond recognition. He did not move. There was no telling whether he would come back in the future. When he left, he knew that there would be no suspense about him entering the sect, and he took away all the valuable things in the house. Just because he really doesn't want to stay in the sect in the future, he will find a place more suitable for his family to live. Wan'er, how are you? When he came outside, Yuan was in the medicine field. It's okay, we'd better not leave it here in the future, it's all a mess. Yuan glanced at the spirits in the medicine field and said, then pulled up the elixirs one by one. Mujukan nodded in agreement, that was his original plan. The two of them spent an hour moving all the elixirs into the space and collecting the spiritual valleys before they entered the back mountain. Mujukan, have you come to such a far place to kill monsters before? The two of them were about to enter the inner circle, and the number of second-level monsters began to increase. Yes, there used to be little snakes standing guard, and no one was afraid, Mujukan replied, and also packed up a first-order tusked pig and handed it to Yuan. The meat of this tusked pig was delicious, and it was delicious no matter how you eat it. These delicious meaty monsters are the favorites of restaurants in Zhongmenfang City. Oh! Speaking of the little snake, she thought of Xiaojin and wondered if it had been in seclusion for a long time. Her consciousness flashed, and a little snake appeared in her hand. The little snake opened its confused triangular eyes and asked, Master, what's the matter? Yuan, no, I just want to ask you, why has Xiaojin not broken through in seclusion for so long? Is there any problem? Little snake, what about this? Master, do you think everyone should be like me, just eat something and break through? What's the meaning? Master, I am a divine beast. I am born with pure blood. As long as I have treasures to eat, my cultivation will be very long. For example, the demon pills of the 3rd level, 4th level, and 5th level monsters, he. Yuan said angrily, 3rd, 4th, and 5th level demon pills, you have to hunt for them yourself. She can kill level 2 people, which is pretty good. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she could kill with her soul. How could she forget this? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 267. Chapter 267, Inner Circle. She turned to Mujukin and asked, Mujukin, how about we go to the inner area? Okay, he heard the conversation between her and the little snake, and knew that the little snake wanted to learn the inner elixir. Most of the monsters in the inner circle are second and third level. There are also fourth and fifth level ones, but they are relatively rare. Master, are you going to the inner area? He, the little snake sniffed, then asked Yuan's hand obsequiously. Yes, but you also have to help. How can you get something for nothing and enjoy it for free? Sure, Master, we'll go right away. Pa, the little snake received a heavy slap. It's already dark, you want us to die? This foodie, when it comes to eating, doesn't care about their life or death at all. Is she still its owner? Sometimes this thing deserves a beating, and sometimes it makes people feel bad. No way, Master, my flesh hurts. My heart still hurts. Little snake. Mujukin was getting excited listening to the bickering between the master and the servant, but it suddenly stopped. He shook his head and went to make dinner. That night, the two of them ate a meal of roast pork and went into the space to rest. They came out the next day. Wanner, be careful, there is no first level monster here. Mujukin walked in front and sent a message to Yuan. Yeah, I know, she responded. When she first entered the inner circle, her consciousness had already seen it. The outside is a little better, there are only some lonely second-order monsters, but if you look inside, the second-order monsters are already gathered together. Mujukin, let's avoid that group of second-level demon wolves. The demon wolves were not only numerous in number, but also very ferocious and thick-skinned. No matter how much they suffered, they couldn't defeat their large numbers. Okay, Mujukin also saw it, and he walked in the other direction. There are so many second-level monsters that hunting is not hunting. Wanner, second-level blue-eared rabbit, we'll take this one. Good. In a cage in the bushes, a blue-eared rabbit 3 times larger than an ordinary rabbit was lying there eating an elixir. Its small mouth moved, and its white fur was very cute. Don't be fooled by its cute appearance. This blue-eared rabbit's teeth are highly venomous. It is said that rabbits do not bite people, but this blue-eared rabbit only bites people. The person bitten will not survive. The two of them surrounded it. They had no intention of fighting it. It was extremely fast and they couldn't catch up with it, even with the transformation step that Yuan had just learned. The most convenient way to deal with it is to use Soul Thorn. Yuan and Mujukin looked at each other, and she immediately locked onto the blue-eared rabbit with her consciousness. With a quick movement of her consciousness, a soul thorn shot towards it like an ox hair. Whoosh, the blue-eared rabbit's soul pierced into the sea of consciousness. The blue-eared rabbit kicked its legs and fell to the ground motionless. After Mujukin checked that there was no danger, he walked up to the blue-eared rabbit, picked up the blue-eared rabbit and brought it to Yuan. Wanner, do you want to eat rabbit meat? Of course we have to eat it, this is the first blue-eared rabbit we have hunted. Rabbit meat is delicious. Okay, wait a moment, Mujukin said and began to clean up the blue-eared rabbit. He just likes them to be alone and live a life without fighting with the world. Soon, he cleaned up and put the blue-eared rabbit on the fire to grill. Soon, the rabbit meat on the fire rack made a sizzling sound. Mujukin quickly sprinkled the ingredients on it, and the aroma immediately filled the forest. Ha 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 ha, Junior Brother's craftsmanship is pretty good. I'm so greedy when I smell it. Suddenly, 5 people descended from the sky, and all 5 of them flew down with their swords. Neither of them raised their eyes. Mujukin continued to roast his meat, but at this time his eyes were cold and unwavering. In his consciousness, he had long sensed something strange, but he remained calm. These annoying scum always liked to get close to him and disturb the world between him and Wanner. Yuan pouted at the 5 of them and descended from the sky in a high-profile manner. Are you trying to be cool? She walked to Mujukan and sat down, taking the roasted meat and eating it. Well, your cooking is really good, it's so delicious that I almost swallowed my tongue together. Eat more delicious food, it's all yours, Mujukan said warmly, with endless tenderness and pampering in his voice. You look at the 5 people, and I look at you, and finally settle on the person who spoke first, meaning that no one is interested in you. Mujukan, is it because of this that you hurt junior sister Shwe'er? The man pointed at Yuan and asked. Yuan frowned, is this Yang Chenfeng's disciple? Are you here to fight against injustice for Yang Shui? Are Yang Chengfeng and his daughter still dancing? Mujukan shook her hand and looked directly at the speaker with cold eyes. You, keep your mouth clean, she is my fiancée. And I am no longer from Formation Peak, Lin's senior brother, don't be so bossy in the future, it will make us really look like brothers in the same school. He glanced at the other 4 people and said, you are not just fighting for Yang Shui today, right? Senior brother Lin was already furious. He gritted his teeth. Today he was going to kill Mujukan and Yuan. He sent a message to the 4 of them. After seeing their cultivation level, the 4 of them nodded and were willing to help him. The 4 of them usually get a lot of benefits from senior brother Lin, and this time is no exception. As long as they kill these 2 people, they can each get a 2nd level formation plate and 2,000 spiritual stones. This is not a small amount, it is more than what I got before. This senior brother Lin is Yang Chenfeng's eldest disciple. He is 50 years old and in the late stage of foundation building. He looks like a human and a dog. He has already coveted Yang Shui, but Yang Shui doesn't like him. Senior brother Lin hated Mujukan so much that Yang Shui actually fell in love with him since he went up the mountain. This made senior brother Lin extremely embarrassed. He usually tried every means to please Yang Shui, but he couldn't win the beauty's smile. This brat gained Yang Shui's favor as soon as he arrived. Even if Mujukan left the formation peak, he still couldn't get a look from Yang Shui. So these 2 people must die today. If they die, Yang Shui will no longer talk about him. And Mujukan and Yuan's spiritual consciousness was so powerful that they heard the sound transmission between them, and they looked at each other. Waner, let's kill 2 of them with soul thorns at the same time, and let's stay and practice the remaining 3, Mujukan said in a message. Okay, it just so happens that her apparition step and her talisman can be used today to show off their talents. At this moment, 5 flying swords, which were more than 10 feet tall, shot at the 2 of them with a cold light. In a moment, Yuan took a picture of the 2nd level Vajra defense talisman on the 2 of them. Mujukan simultaneously drew out a fiery red giant sword and faced the 5 flying swords with fiery sword energy. Yuan also threw 5 thunder explosion talismans, and then pulled Mujukan back 10 feet. Hey, let's blow up your flying sword before we talk. Boom, boom, boom. 5 thunderbolts collided with the flying sword and exploded immediately. Fires shot up into the sky, and the huge explosion force immediately blew up 5 flying swords that were more than 10 feet long. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 268. Chapter 268 Killing Senior Brother Lin. AHH. At this time, 2 of the 5 people screamed and fell down. At the same time, Mujukan caught the flying sword he urged back. This girl threw so many talismans without telling her in advance, almost destroying his ancestral spiritual weapon. Senior brother Lin was so shocked when he saw the 2 men bleeding to death from their inexplicable orifices that he ignored the other 2 and quickly backed away. Although the other 2 people were frightened, they were just stunned for a moment. One of them carried the 2 dead people and retreated to senior brother Lin, but the distance was a bit far. The 2 put down the 2 dead people and looked at Lin deeply. Senior brother. Yuan was hesitant, but he was still afraid of death. In times of crisis, senior brother Lin only cared about himself and didn't even care about his partners. Even if these three people didn't die today, they would never have a happy partnership in the future, and there might even be dog-eat-dog situations. It made Yuan not want to kill him. "Waner, come on," Mujukin shouted, and he rushed towards senior brother Lin with his flying sword. Yuan lowered her lips and had no choice but to use the transformation step. Only a few after images of her flashed past, and she was already in front of the two people. The two people just took a breath and saw Yuan standing in front of them strangely, smiling at them, and then two more thunder explosion talisman exploded towards them. By the time they reacted and were about to run for their lives, the thunder explosion talisman exploded with two boom sounds. The two of them ouched a few times before being blown up beyond recognition and fell into a pool of blood. Yuan shook his head. These two people were too inexperienced. They didn't even have any defensive weapons. If they came out to kill people, they should come to kill people inside. She quickly stepped forward and killed two of them one by one with a sword, collected the storage bags of the four people, and threw 4 fireballs, burning them clean. After she finished cleaning up, she stood aside and watched the fight between Mujukin and brother Na Lin. She would not help. Today's battle was a battle for him to settle old and new grudges. At this time, the cone-shaped spiritual weapon in senior brother Lin's hand was shining brightly and fiercely under his constant input of spiritual power, forcing Mujukin's flying sword to retreat step by step, threatening to smash it into pieces. Seeing this scene, Yuan couldn't help but sweat for Mujukin. After all, Mujukin had just established the foundation not long ago, and neither his spiritual power nor the use of magical weapons had the strength to compete with senior brother Lin, an experienced foundation-building monk. And Mujukin kept inputting spiritual power into the flying sword. The red-colored flying sword instantly grew a bit bigger, and got rid of the cone-shaped spiritual energy at an extremely tricky angle. He forcibly bypassed the cone-shaped spiritual weapon and headed straight towards Lin. The senior brother was stabbed in the chest. He can't fight with spiritual power head-on, so why should he fight? He just used senior brother Lin to sharpen his sword, and eventually he would still use Soul Thorn. Thinking of this, the indifference in Mujukin's eyes flashed away. He wanted senior brother Lin to die. There were many stumbling blocks for him in the past. At that time, he had no strength and was timid. He could not compete with him or do anything to him. Moreover, he still scolded his Waner today. Today was different from the past. This came to his door looking for death. How could he not accept it? Mujukin fiercely input his spiritual power, and red flames suddenly appeared on the surface of the flying sword, and a hot breath spread out. Yuan looked at the flames on the flying sword and felt inexplicably happy for Mujukin, who had cultivated such a strong elixir fire just after building the foundation. She also avoided the attack of the cone-shaped spiritual weapon and counterattacked senior brother Lin. She didn't know that his spiritual power was so profound. On the other hand, her spiritual power and her elixir fire were much weaker than his, and the elixir fire was only enough for her to make elixirs. Seeing the flying sword approaching him, senior brother Lin hurriedly took a few steps back to avoid the hot breath. He kept pinching with his hands, causing the cone-shaped magic weapon to fail to defend and fight back. He stared at Mujukin fiercely. Only then did the foundation building waste actually blocked him for so long and dared to attack him. Snort. Senior brother Lin laughed coldly, and pushed the cone-shaped spiritual weapon with great aura towards Mujukin's face. Mujukin's heart skipped a beat. He had never thought that senior brother Lin was so ruthless. He had a strategy of injuring the enemy by 1000 and damaging himself by 800. Instead of defending against his flying sword, he attacked him directly. Haha, let's have a fight. Senior brother Lin really thought he was a weakling who had just established his foundation. What he didn't know was that the spiritual power cultivated by their ancestral skills was pure and strong. His spiritual power at the beginning of foundation building was no weaker than the spiritual power in the middle stage of foundation building. Mujukin took a shadowless step with his feet, and quickly pinched it with both hands. The red flaming flying sword turned around, caught up with the conical spiritual weapon, and directly wrapped senior brother Lin's conical spiritual weapon in it. Mujukin increased his spiritual power output. Basically, all the spiritual power in his dantian was input into the flying sword. He wanted to burn senior brother Lin's cone-shaped magic weapon. He didn't believe that senior brother Lin had many spiritual weapons. After a moment, senior brother Lin couldn't move the cone-shaped spiritual weapon no matter what. His face suddenly turned pale, and the cone-shaped spiritual weapon was slowly disappearing in his consciousness. Senior brother Lin was shocked. He lost 2 spiritual weapons today. The first spiritual weapon he used was the flying sword, which was blown up by Yuan. The last low-grade spiritual weapon was also burned by Mujukin. What kind of elixir fire is this that is so harmful? It's comparable to spiritual fire. His best formation was in front of Mujukin. He didn't have a magic weapon that he could use to fight with him, so it was a piece of shit. Senior brother Lin didn't dare to be too fussy now. He was so frightened that his soul flew away. A flash of his mind made him keep Qingshan as long as he was not afraid of running out of firewood. If he didn't run away now, he would wait until later. He turned around and wanted to run away, but Mujukin took a step forward, pushed the flaming red flying sword with both hands and stabbed towards senior brother Lin's back. This blow drained the last spiritual energy from his body. The red light flashed away, and with a plop sound, the flying sword penetrated directly through his chest. Senior brother Lin clutched his chest and looked back in disbelief at Mujukin, who was collapsed on the ground. He raised his hand and pointed at him. Hello, you are so cruel. Boom. Fall down and died. All in all, if you are not ruthless in killing people, they will be ruthless in killing you. As expected, the is hypocritical. Yuan immediately lifted up Mujukin, who had exhausted his spiritual power, and entered the space with senior brother Lin's body. The smell of blood here has attracted the nearby monsters. She gritted her teeth and waited until Mujukin was finished. If the fight continued, she would release the snake. In the space, she stuffed a pill into Mujukin's mouth to restore his spiritual power. This is also a fool. He knows that it can be easily solved, but he has to fight with others to be happy. She pulled off the storage bag from senior brother Lin's waist and poured the contents out. The contents of the other 4 people's storage bags were poured together. She first cleaned up senior brother Lin's things. There were not many useful things. She thought it was a fat sheep, but it turned out that there were not many useful things. There were only more than 2,000 spiritual stones, but it was better than nothing. The other 4 people's total is pretty good. In addition to more than 10,000 spiritual stones, there are also a lot of elixirs. It seems that they were all picked recently. She burned the other useless things and put the useful ones into the wooden house. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 269. Chapter 269 Changes in Space. Where is this body? Yuan got up and said that the body of senior brother Lin was burned. There was only one disciple uniform he was wearing. She kicked it with her foot and found that there was indeed only one piece of clothing there. Her scalp suddenly became numb. This senior brother Lin didn't have any secret skills. Could he just play like a golden cicada and escape from its shell? She quickly scanned the space with her consciousness. Don't really hide in any corner of the space and attack her when she is not prepared. For a long time, Yuan didn't even see a ghost, and Yuan frowned. Where is the corpse of the monster? At this moment, she thought about the corpses of the monsters they hunted. She threw them directly into the space and piled them in front of the wooden house. She planned to clean them up when she was free, and now they were gone. Did space eat it? With a sudden movement of consciousness, she came to the place where the corpse of the monster was placed, and looked at the ground there carefully. The ground was clean, not even a hair on it. Yuan glanced at Mujukan, who was still meditating. Her consciousness came out of the space and quickly found a monster. After confirming that it was dead, she killed it with a soul thorn, then used a soul thorn to stun another monster, and then carried it enter the space. In the space, she placed the two monsters on the ground. After a moment, the dead monster was slowly decomposed by the earth. In the end, the ground there was the same as before, as if nothing had ever been placed there. And the unconscious monster was lying there peacefully. Yuan now fully understood that the corpses of senior brother Lin and the monster were swallowed up by space. Why does space swallow dead things? This new skill only appeared after she advanced to foundation building. She was sure she didn't have it before. Are the new skills different in each realm space? Just now when she carefully observed the space swallowing the corpse, there was spiritual energy emanating from the corpse. Is space worried that her spiritual stone supply will not be enough, so it will add a new awesome skill to her? In the future, she no longer has spirit stones, so she can still hunt some monsters and bring them in. The spiritual energy in the space will not drop. Not bad, this space is so considerate. Yuan really wanted to laugh 3 times. Waner, why are you laughing here? Mujukan got up and saw her staring at the ground and laughing stupidly. Haha, it's a happy thing, I won't tell you. Yuan raised her lips towards her. Look at your arrogant little face. Mujukan hugged her and really wanted to kiss her raised red lips, they were so tempting. He looked at Feng Yuan who was practicing in the wooden house and decided to let her go. He had to find a way to let Feng Yuan go out to practice. Let him forget it with his grandfather and the others. After he and Waner get married, they can't be intimate under Feng Yuan's nose, right? How embarrassing it is for him. Mujukan, I'm hungry, please roast this one. Yuan touched his belly. They hadn't eaten enough before, and the 5 people who wanted to die came. Oh, remember, put the meat you have packed up on a plate later, otherwise it will be swallowed up by space. Oh, is that why you were giggling just now? Yuan, you are just giggling. Isn't this good? In the future, if I don't have a supply of spiritual stones, I will hunt some monsters and feed them to swallow. It can also increase my spiritual energy. How should I be surprised or not surprised? It's not enough to be frightened if you get hurt in the future, try not to enter the space or get swallowed. Okay, I remember. The 2 of them ate in the space and cooked enough food for Feng Yuan for a month before they came out of the space. Now knowing that space has special functions, Yuan hunted and threw them into the space regardless of what kind of monster they were. Mujukan, why don't we go kill those 2nd-level monster wolves? The 2 of them had been hunting for a day, and most of them were single-track monsters. If they wanted to go deeper, they started to have 3rd-level monsters. She doesn't want to face the 3rd-level monsters so quickly. They also want to practice with the 2nd-level monsters. Mujukan agreed without saying a word, just as his swordsmanship needed an opportunity to break through to the 2nd level. The previous duel with senior brother Lin was too short and it was impossible to break through. If there were wolves, it would be possible. He had this idea. He was worried that Waner wouldn't be willing, so he never said it, and he never thought that she would take the initiative to bring it up today. Then let's go, just be careful. Mujukan took a few steps forward and held her hand. The 2 of them entered a dense forest and came to a flat valley. There is a lake in this valley. Many herbivorous monsters come here to drink water in the morning and evening. The monster wolf will come to hunt at that time. It's noon now, and there are a few monsters in the valley looking for something to eat. They are very vigilant and look around while eating. As long as there is any noise, they will run away immediately. Yuan will not worry about pitying them. Monsters and beasts follow the laws of the jungle. Just like the world of immortality, in a world where strength is respected, the big ones eat the small ones, and the small ones eat the shrimps. Everyone has his own destiny. Mujukan, pay attention, there are elixirs here. I dug them up when Yuan glanced around with her consciousness. There were a lot of elixirs growing on both sides of the entrance to the valley. Perhaps this is a special location and no monsters will wander around here, so these elixirs have survived. Okay, be careful. Seeing that it was almost evening, Mujukan had to pay attention to the situation in the valley, so he let her pick. Yuan nodded and summoned a spiritual hoe, lying on the to dig out the elixir. She dug very carefully, fearing that the monsters in the valley would sense it, cause panic, and scare away the ones who should come. Mujukan started to make preparations here. He installed a trap array at the entrance. As soon as the demon wolf entered the valley, he would activate the formation to prevent the demon wolf from escaping. It is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. Only the entrance has a gap, which blocks the place. The demon wolf is the turtle in the wen, allowing them to catch it. When there was still some afterglow in the sky, a large number of herbivorous monsters hurriedly ran into the valley to drink water. Boom boom boom. At this moment, a 3rd-level demon wolf led a group of 2nd-level and 1st-level demon wolves and quickly flew into the valley. When they entered the valley, they attacked and bitten the herbivorous demonic beasts. Hurry, Wanner enters the valley, Mujukan sent a message to her. As soon as Yuan stepped forward, she was at the entrance of the valley. The two of them flashed into the valley, and Mujukan formed a magic spell to activate the formation. Let's go, Wanner, be careful if you can't stand it, go into the space. Well, I'll let the little snake come out to hold the wolf later, but don't get close to it. Good. Yuan quickly summoned the little snake and threw it towards the alpha wolf. The little snake was still drowsy in sleep. At first sight, it was flying towards a 3rd-level alpha wolf. It was clever and immediately recovered its body and pounced on the alpha wolf. The wolves were happily hunting when they suddenly saw 3 Chenyajin coming out. Suddenly the eyes of the demon wolves glowed green. Compared to herbivorous monsters, monster wolves are more interested in hunting human monks. So they let go of the prey in their claws and rushed towards the two of them with howls. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 270. Chapter 270 The Truth of the Year. Of course the snake belongs to their alpha wolf, and they can't afford to offend it. When the demon wolves saw Yuan rushing towards them, one on the left and the other on the right, they also divided into 2 teams to fight with them. The herbivorous monsters that had saved their lives rushed to the entrance of the valley, but the entrance was blocked and they could not get out. Now they hated their mother for not giving them a pair of wings, so they had to go back and stick to the valley wall to reduce them. Sense of presence. They watched the battle in the valley, and watched the demon wolves fall one by one. They were not panicked at all now, but felt indescribably happy. This group of demonic wolves has eaten countless of their companions. They don't even have the right to be angry, let alone resist. Being able to see them being killed with their own eyes today made the herbivorous monsters feel extremely relieved. Yuan waved her sword and threw talismans, and the demon wolves fell down one by one. Whenever she had a chance, she took the dead demon wolves into the space. Being on the ground also affects her ability to cast apparition. Unconsciously, she could move in whatever direction she wanted. As long as she thought in her heart, she would reach where she wanted. With the help of apparition, the 2nd-level talisman was a bit wasted against these demonic wolves. She simply used the flying sword to attack and kill the wolves at close range. She shuttled among the wolves. The demon wolves did not even dare to use spells, as they would not hurt their companions if they used them. Yuan took advantage of this. As long as her figure flashed past, one of the wolves in the pack would surely die under her sword. She also likes this kind of close combat. On the other hand, Mujukin's sword skills made him flow like clouds and water, and he killed the demon wolf until it was wet and wet. They know that the characteristic of demon wolves is that they will not desert, especially when their alpha wolf is still there. They would rather fight to the end and defect. So Yuan killed as much as they wanted. After the battle lasted for 3 hours, Yuan killed the last demon wolf. Mujukin also sheathed his sword at the same time. Only the little snake was already watching the show. The two men quickly cleaned up the battlefield. Mujukin took away the formation plate at the entrance of the valley and led Yuan and his servants out of the valley. The little snake found a hiding place, and the two of them quickly entered the space. The little snake went to refine the demon elixir, and the two of them quickly meditated to restore their spiritual power. The two of them fought continuously for 3 hours, and the spiritual power in their bodies was exhausted. 2 hours later, Yuan opened her eyes. She found that when she started practicing again after running out of spiritual power, she absorbed the spiritual power much faster. But this method of play can only be used when there is no danger. You can also do this when you draw talismans by yourself. No matter what she did in the past, she would never use up all her spiritual power. This was a taboo for monks. Once the spiritual power in a monk's body was exhausted, if there was an emergency, there would be no spiritual power left to escape. "Get up and eat soon," Mujukin shouted when he saw that she was still thinking about something. Oh, Yuan got up and looked at him. This guy recovered faster than her. A single spiritual root is a single spiritual root, and it cannot be compared with her 3 spiritual roots. She saw that the food was already placed on the table. This man was really fast. The two of them sat at the table and started eating. "How is it? Do you feel that the aura of the space is much stronger?" Mujukin took a mouthful of rice and asked her. Oh, it's much richer. This is a good method and saves a lot of spirit stones." Yuan thought she heard wrong. Shouldn't she ask if the food is delicious when eating? Then let's go out and hunt more monsters this time. Okay, that is. At this time, the spiritual energy in the space rushed straight to Feng Yuan's wooden house. "Uncle is getting promoted. Mujukin, well, he has advanced to the 10th level of Qi training. He is not bad. He works harder than my cousin. It's a lot of hard work. From that time he was beaten, he seemed to be a completely different person. He only knew how to practice." Yuan was very worried. She felt it was necessary to talk to him. If she just kept her head down and practiced, having knots in her heart would affect her state of mind, and it would be most likely to create bottlenecks and breed inner demons. He originally had a criminal record before, and sooner or later problems would arise if he continued like this. "Are Wan worried about Uncle?" Mujukin looked worried when he saw that she had eaten less. "Well, I'm afraid he'll get into trouble," Yuan nodded and said. "If I have a chance, I'll have a chat with him. It's easier for men to talk to each other." "That's okay." After the two of them finished eating, they came out of space and started their hunting trip again. 1 month later. Hurry, Wan'er, let's get out of here." Mujukin pulled Yuan and ran away. Behind them was a mid-level 3rd-level double-winged tiger. In front of them were 4 foundation building powders. Build. The two of them really suffered a disaster this time. They were tricked by the 4 people in front of them. They had just finished hunting a 2nd-level monster, but they didn't want the 4 people to attract the double-winged tiger. The pair of winged tigers had no intention of attacking the two of them, but they didn't want the 4 people to run toward them. When they passed by, they said to them, "Don't run away yet." The twin-winged tiger naturally thought they were in the same group, and when he saw them, he immediately sprayed out 2 water arrows to attack them. Mujukin pulled Yuan and ran away. The two of them had just turned a corner and stopped to rest for a while. When they saw no one around, they stepped into the space. But this scene happened to be seen by a person above their heads. This person is none other than Yang Chengfeng, who was forced out of the Haoyu sect and fled in embarrassment. This matter has to do with the fact that Yao Kuai took the jade slip and went to the ancestor of the sect in the back mountain of Haoyu section. The ancestor of the sect, Zhuhua Daijun, was Yao Kuai's direct uncle. For such a big matter, you must go to the ancestors. When Zhuhua Taoist Lord saw the jade slips, he almost executed Yin Hao and Yang Chengfeng on the spot. The person they were looking for had been dead for hundreds of years, and he still died at the hands of his own disciples. Zhuhua Daijun and Yao Kuai found the secret room under the cliff, saw the corpse, and confirmed that it was the younger brother of Yao Kuai-Shao's master, Zhuhua Daijun, and the 9-star true monarch at that time. It was also confirmed that what was left on the stone wall was left by Juxing Zhenjun, and it was also confirmed that the murderer was Yang Chengfeng. When Zhuhua Dao Lord found Yin Hao's master and apprentice, Yang Chengfeng fell out with Yin Hao on the spot. He had shouldered the blame for Yin Hao for so many years, but he no longer took the blame. He confessed that he was also instructed by Yin Hao to first poison him and then use a formation to trap Juxing Zhenjun, who was also his master, and then used the most cruel means to kill Juxing Zhenjun. When he killed someone, he was very scared. After all, he was still a foundation-building monk at that time and his direct ancestor, so he ran away without destroying the secret room. After a long time, he thought that the person should be dead, so he went back and took a look, but for some unknown reason, the secret room disappeared. It was only then that Yuan saw the secret room by chance. At that time, Yang Chengfeng didn't know that 9-star True Lord, who was already a great monk of nascent soul, was dead, but he still had nascent soul. Although nascent soul was poisoned at the time, it would not dissipate all at once. End of this chapter.